Happy New Year! This is not champagne, it is wine, and I am filming this in November. But if you're watching this, it's the new year for you. I'm gonna post this in mid-January, but it still counts. To celebrate the new year, I wanted to look back on my past. I wanted to go through every book that I read from elementary school to high school and give them a ranking. Now, you may be asking, how do you remember every book that you read from elementary school to high school? I technically don't. But I was blessed/cursed with a great memory, and I'm an avid record keeper. So, through researching my personal archives, aka the essays I wrote at age 9, I was able to trace back the large majority of books that I read. So for some basic rules and restrictions for how I'll be ranking these, firstly, I didn't include any books before the 4th grade, mostly because I couldn't remember the ones that I had to read. I know, I'm sorry, slight lie there. I wanted to include them all, but unfortunately I can't remember whether or not I actually had to read The Hungry Hungry Caterpillar for kindergarten. Also, in order to expand my elementary school list, I wanted to include things like book clubs. I was in something called Battle of the Books in 4th and 5th grade, which is where all the elementary schools in our counties had kids read a selection of books, and then at the end you had a trivia tournament about them. It was a lot of fun. In 4th grade, I was on our trivia team, and we won. Also, look how cute I was. Oh my god, I was so cute. Look at that little face. Damn guys, what happened? Although I've really kept that I do not want to be here energy. Number 2 on rules, we have no nonfiction. I didn't think it'd be fair to be ranking fiction and nonfiction books together. And rule number 3, no plays. I read a fair amount of Shakespeare plays in school, and I just didn't think they should be ranked alongside books. Rule number 4, let's not take my opinions too seriously. A lot of these books I have not read since I was very young, and I don't remember them all. Also, do not trust everything I say. My summaries may not be fully correct. Even for the books I do remember, don't trust my opinion. I was young. I was likely stupid. Let's not give teenage me too much credibility, okay? For these rankings, I'm mostly going to consider how I felt while reading these books because I can't remember the plot of things that I read when I was 10 for the most part. So just to be fair, I want to think about the impact that these books had on me and rank them based off of that. So I'm going to give a bit of an overview on each of the books I read, how I felt about them, and give them a ranking from there. I've put all the books I've ranked as chapters down below in case you want to avoid spoilers. Alright, let's jump into it. Alright, first taking a look at the books from elementary school. First book, Running Out of Time. I mostly remember this one. I remember the main girl had a sister named Bartholomew, and I thought that was a weird name because I was 10, and I think I'm still correct. But this is the first book that I read for Battle of the Books. It was in the sci-fi genre, so it was the first dystopian novel I remember ever reading, like YA dystopia before it got super duper big. This would have been about 2010. Don't remember when the book actually came out, but it's about this girl who lives in this community and her family decided to live there because it's like a simpler time. They're almost like Amish, but they're living in the 1800s. And it's almost like a Truman Show thing, so people come and see them, but you can't see the people seeing them. Really odd. But then one of her siblings gets sick and they don't have access to medicine for them, so she has to go to the outside world to get the medicine. I said I don't remember a lot of it. I guess I did. I don't remember the ending, but that's the overall premise of it. Honestly, because it was the first YA dystopia novel I read, it got me hooked at a young age, so I think I have to put this one in A tier. Next book is this When You Reach Me. Okay, I also kind of remember this book. It was also in the sci-fi section for Battle of the Books, along with Running Out of Time. There's a total of 3, and I wanted to be the sci-fi expert. This one I know is vaguely about time travel. And the only other thing I remember from it is this one girl has seizures, and it takes place in the 1970s. So she has to go on this special diet for people who had seizures in the 1970s. I think it was gluten-free. That's all I remember from When You Reach Me. B. Okay, next book, Matilda. I guess if you don't know what Matilda is, it's about this girl who's being named Matilda, who's being held back from her prime, and so all her unused brain power gives her telekinesis. B for Matilda. Trunchbull is scary. Gollywhopper Games, okay. Only thing I remember from this book was it was very colorful, and the Westing game I read after that, we'll get to that, reminded me of the Gollywhopper Games. I think that's the gist, but I otherwise don't really remember reading it. It was also a Battle of the Books book. So I think just based off of that, gotta put it in C. Next, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. This is a book where I don't remember the plot well, but I remember the feeling reading it. This was the last book that I read for Battle of the Books. It was in the historical fiction section. I remember it's a great story, and I really did like it. Maybe this is one I revisit. I don't remember the plot very much, but I remember there's moments that stuck with me. Some of them are silly. Like, they talk about how their grandfather owns so many acres of land, and I had no idea what an acre was, so I really did not know how much land they owned. But there's also this part in the book about how, because they went to segregated schools, I forget the exact time period, but it was definitely during Jim Crow, they showed their textbooks, and in their textbooks you could see once it got passed to the school for Black children, the book quality was significantly worse. They tracked the quality, and for the white children it was in pristine quality, and by the time it had gotten to the main character it was poor. There's moments like that stuck out to me. I know this also has multiple books. It's a series, so maybe I'll have to revisit this one. Yeah, definitely an A. Girl Who Owned a City. This is one that I weirdly remember well. This is also in the sci-fi genre, and it was about these children who had survived a plague, and the plague killed all adults, everyone, I think, over the age of 12. And it hit once, that was it. And all these children were left, and so they have to fend for themselves. So this girl and her friends and her siblings, they do things like teach themselves the drive and all this stuff. They go on those sorts of misadventures, but it does get serious because there's gangs. So her and her friends decide to hold down in their old school, and they defend it like a city. It's pretty cool. I loved the premise when I was a kid of the idea of you and your friends living in your schools during an apocalypse. I had a different idea of fun at 10, but this one's definitely A tier for me. Gregor the Overlander. Okay. So this is Suzanne Collins' book series that she wrote before The Hunger Games. I had read this before I had even heard of The Hunger Games. The Hunger Games was out by the time I had read Gregor the Overlander, but I was 10, so I had no business reading The Hunger Games. I don't remember all of Gregor the Overlander. I remember liking it. I just bought it recently because I want to revisit it and see how the series differ, especially because it's by Suzanne Collins. I remember liking it, and I remember the cool themes of them being underground and the city underground. So I think I'm going to give this one a B. Lemonade War. The Lemonade War, it was about kids who had rival lemonade stands, I think. This was a series, and the whole book was basically every chapter kind of taught kids about a different financial thing. And I don't remember it all, because my dad works in finance, so it kind of fell on deaf ears. But there was one, I think it was called the Lemonade Laws, something like that taught you different law lessons. That one I really liked. That's all I remember from this book. Oh, and there's a scene where there's a kid, the main character, he's throwing a baseball up and catching it, and it falls on his face. And I related to that a lot for some reason, so B. Next is Island of the Blue Dolphins. Okay. This is another one where I remember the feeling from reading it, because it's about this girl who lives on an island, and everyone on the island leaves without her, and she's just stuck on the island. I don't remember the end, but it's basically her being stuck on the island alone. She does get a dog. I mean, wolf, but still, that's cool. But that's all I remember from it. But I do remember liking it. And also, there's a lot of eerie feeling around it, because she's the last person left living on this island by herself. She's a teenage girl, and she got a dog, so B. Oh, okay. The Witch of Blackbird Pond. This was the first of the required reading ones that I have down. I read this in the 4th grade. It's about witches and stereotypes around witches. I think it takes place in the 1600s. It's about this girl from Barbados, and I think she goes to the mainland of Americas. She befriends this one woman, and everyone thinks she's a witch, but really she was just ostracized from the community because she's a single older woman. A lot of people thought this girl was a witch. Like, at one point she falls overboard on the ship, but she can swim because she's from Barbados. That's all I remember from this one. I think I liked it because 10-year-old me thought witches were cool. I really hope I got the point by the end, so I think this is going to be another B. Okay. Walk Two Moons. I am so sorry. I think there's a lot of people out here who really love this book, and I'm sure it's good, but I had to read this in the 5th grade for a book club, and I did not appreciate it at the time. I thought it was really boring. This, again, I was 11. Maybe this is another one that I revisit because I'm sure it's good. Just at 11, I don't know, I could not get into it. I dreaded going to that book club because I did not like this book, and I felt really bad because I loved books and I really wanted to, but I could not get into this one. So just based off of how I felt about it at 11, I think I gotta give it a D. But please do not trust 11-year-old me's opinions. Okay, the Weston game. It's like the Gollywhopper Games, I guess. I think this is one of those Knives Out scenarios. That's bad to compare it to because this came first of like an inheritance dilemma. This might be one that I look up after I rank them because I don't quite remember everything. I had to read this in the 5th grade and I remember liking it, but it didn't really blow me away. I think I liked it more than the Gollywhopper Games. Maybe. I think it's a bit more dramatic than the Gollywhopper Games. I think that's going in B. The Mysterious Benedict Society. Okay, I loved The Mysterious Benedict Society. It's really funny because thinking about it, I realized I forgot the main character's name. I remember Kate, Sticky, and Constance, the 3 other ones, but I can't remember the main character. I remember Mr. Benedict had narcolepsy, and this taught me what narcolepsy was. It was a big deal when we read it in the 5th grade because it's over 400 pages, and so reading that at 11 makes you feel, I don't know, like that's the first big kid book you read. But this was definitely a fun series about gifted children doing things. I think I had read all the books by the time I was in middle school. I think these are another ones I want to revisit because I think there's a TV show for it now too. And I loved Kate because she had a hawk. I really wanted to get a hawk when I was a kid because of that. And luckily my mom wouldn't let me because I think the hawk would have eaten me. So this one's going in A, yeah. Okay. Tuck Everlasting. Okay. I don't know. I don't like Tuck Everlasting. Had to read this in the 5th grade. And the point, it wasn't so much that it was lost on me, it just fell on deaf ears. When I tell you I did not give a shit about the point they were making. The worst part is, I know I shouldn't trust 11-year-old me's opinions, but I don't think I'd give a shit now. Basically, it's about this family who accidentally drank from like the fountain of youth, and so they can't die. They can't age, they can't die. And they meet this 12-year-old girl, and she's getting the life lesson about whether or not she should drink from the well. The older people in the family are telling her how sacred life is and how she should cherish it while she's here. And the younger ones are like, yo, you should wait until you're 16, drink from the well, and then we can get married. I think. That's what I got from it. The movie we also watched, and they aged her up to 16, which I do think is a bit more effective. I didn't like the movie either. I would have drank from the fountain. Like, of course the 50-year-olds would say don't drink from the fountain. They're not 20. If you were in your 20s, you'd drink from the fountain. This is not the book for me. It's going in D. The Giver. Okay. Giver's pretty popular book. I think a lot of people point back to this when looking at the YA craze of novels. It's funny, I own all 4 books in the series, but I have not heard good things about any of the other books, especially because I think they kind of ruin the ambiguity behind the ending of The Giver. And that's what I really liked about it. I think a lot of people know, but if you don't, The Giver is about this young boy named Jonah who lives in this society that has gone through something called the sameness. So as we discover over the course of the book, everything's in black and white. People take medicines to suppress their emotions. And once you reach the age of 12, you're given a vocation that you have to train for. And he is given the vocation of a memory keeper. And so this man, the Giver, starts giving him the memories of the past society because someone has to hold on to them for like life lessons. If maybe that's not a good way to put it. They have to hold on to him as he's basically a record keeper. It's a really cool premise. There's a lot going on. The movie's terrible. Don't watch the movie. But the book's pretty short. I think it's a really good read. We had to read this in the 5th grade. And at the time, like, it really impacted me. It makes you think a lot. It's weirdly cerebral, at least for 11-year-olds. So I think I'm going to put this in S tier just because of the impact it had on me when I was younger. Okay. Last but not least, because Tuck Everlasting is on this list, The Hobbit. Okay. So, we had to read The Hobbit in the 5th grade, and all of us were very excited. Okay, we were like a friend group, a class of nerds, and so reading The Hobbit was like a rite of passage. And some people had read Lord of the Rings, some people hadn't. A lot of people were waiting for the moment when you get to read The Hobbit in the 5th grade. I was so bored. I was shocked at how bored I was reading this book. I didn't care. And I still feel, it's like I feel a nerd guilt. I don't understand. I've seen the Lord of the Rings movies now. I've fallen asleep during 2 of them. One day I will go back and revisit it and force myself. So, nope, I don't want to force them. This is going to be natural. I'm going to love it. But I didn't like The Hobbit. And I still feel bad. I think I was the only person in my class who got a B on the test because I couldn't get through it. I remember the end I read multiple times, and I'm like, when did they die? Who died? What was that war scene? I'm going to revisit The Hobbit. I feel bad. I'm putting it in C. Again, we don't trust 11-year-old me's opinions. She wasn't very smart, guys. So this is the last ranking for the books from elementary school. I don't think I'm going to put anything in F. We'll see.
Sure, Jan.
All right, moving into middle school. I could remember significantly less books from middle school, and I think that's because, one, we read some nonfiction books, and I didn't want to put those amongst fiction for ranking. And 2, we read a lot of short stories, but very few books. So I definitely had to really look back to remember what we read at the time. Trash.
Michael!
I know I had to read it. I kind of remember what it's about. Does that sticker say based on I didn't know it was a movie. Okay, maybe I'll watch the movie. I vaguely remember it was about young boys who, I don't know if it was a dystopian society or not. I mean, it kind of was because they lived amongst trash. And I don't remember the conspiracy around it or really what happened. I remember liking reading it. It was like a pretty smooth read, but I cannot remember all the plot. I think this is going to go in B, just because B for barely remember the plot. Yeah, okay. Okay, this fucking book. Just imagine. Okay, this is the last book I could remember from my list, and I found an old report I did on it. We had to make like a newspaper reel from like a historical fiction book, and mine was really dumb. Yeah, here is the culprit in question. Really don't know what I was thinking with all the red text here. And clearly I had run out of ideas given that I just added a weather section that is quite large, all things considered. I don't think The Wizard of Oz had come out or / was coming out anytime around when this book was supposed to take place. And of course we have some very fun spelling mistakes. She will be remembered, guys. But I really think I brought things together with this gradient over here where you can't see the end. I'm sure it was a good book. I barely remember it. I think this young girl had a brother, and the brother wanted to tap dance. It was the 1930s. I think the father lost his job, but the mother wanted that little boy to tap dance. But meanwhile, the main character, the sister, is going on some weird journey with a medium or something. It was weird. I didn't like it. And I couldn't, for the life of me, remember the name. I did not put the name in my newspaper report at all. So I had to look up this book and really search for it. Let's see. Okay. I found this. It's a series of books, multiple volumes, called What Do Children and Young Adults Read Next? A Reader's Guide to Fiction for Children and Young Adults. So I found this, rented it from an online library, and then found this little cutout from it. Look at the subjects: family life, depression, economic, and then psychic powers. What the hell, guys? Anyway, this one's going in C. Okay. The Watsons Go to Birmingham. We read this in the 6th grade, and we read it in my English class and had a lot of fun because the teachers, our teacher let us read them out loud in class. We'd read parts, and there's curse words in it. And when we came across the curse words, she let us curse. So that was a fun experience. I, at 12, got to say ass in front of my whole class because I was cool like that. But in all seriousness, this was a really good book. I really liked reading it. I don't quite remember everything, but I know it's about a African-American family who goes to Birmingham, but it's during Jim Crow era, around the civil rights era. And they go there around the time of the Birmingham bombing. And tonally, it was definitely a shift because it's kind of from what I remember, a lighthearted book about a family going on a road trip. And then it ends with a bombing. And it was really effective for what it was doing and what it was. So, really good book. Loved reading it. And that was when I was 12. That was a good choice from our teacher. Putting that in A. Heartbeat. Okay, I debated putting this one on here because I think it's a book of poems. And the only reason I remembered reading it was because I found an old report that we had to do based off of this. There's an apple on the cover, and I think in it the main girl takes a picture of an apple every day for however long. And we had to do that, and I think there's times I forgot, so we may have cheated some of those apple pictures, and that may still have stuck with me. I'm sorry, teacher who made us read this book. I did not have time to take a picture of an apple every day. I was very busy at 12. I don't remember reading it. I think it's a book of poems, and I think the main girl is sick. I'm gonna put it in C. Okay. The Hunger Games. Come on. Okay. Yeah, reading The Hunger Games in middle school was a big deal because our teacher had us read them, I believe, in the 8th grade. And everyone knew through middle school, if you're going to be in that English class, you're going to read The Hunger Games. It was a big deal. And this is right around 2013, 2014. So at peak Hunger Games height. So a lot of people were waiting to read that book just for that class, which was bold. And I'll never forget, I feel so bad for this kid and all the kids he spoiled the book for, but we were having a discussion about it, and he was talking about how more impactful and sad some of the moments are knowing that Prim was going to die. And a lot of people didn't know Prim died. So I'm sorry if you didn't know that. Spoiler alert for a book that's been out for almost 2 decades. Yeah, of course, I love The Hunger Games. It was so much fun reading it in class. I need to go back through my old reports for it. I really want to know what I wrote down. Yeah, I went through my old Hunger Games write-ups, and let me tell you, not a single hot take in sight. I'm actually kind of disappointed with 13-year-old me. I really thought she could do better. However, I did find this one project I did comparing cells to the Hunger Games for a science project. And I gotta say, honestly inspired. Go past Katie. I was such a nerd. It's a miracle I had friends. Look at me. The mitochondrion, guys. It's the powerhouse of the cell. It's the game makers. Okay, we got the nucleus is the head game maker. Pop off. Wow. Wonder what I got on this. Yeah, so that's going in S tier. You may have noticed Tuck Everlasting's on this list twice. I had to read this book for school twice. Once in the 5th grade and once in the 7th grade. And I was not amused the second time around either. I tried to give it a chance, especially considering now I was older than the main character. I don't know why that would actually make a difference, really thinking about it. But still, at 13, I would have drank from the fountain. At 26, I'd drink from the fountain. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Maybe just not the book for me. And because I had to read it a second time, double the pain. So it's going in F tier. I'm sorry. It's well written. It is well written. Okay, The Secret Garden. Maybe we weren't. I feel like we were a bit too old to read this. Like, the feeling of whimsy did not stick with me. I don't know if that's the feeling we're supposed to take away from it. We read it like as a class, and there's multiple points where we were reading it aloud in class. We were bored. And this book was so boring that when we were reading it in class, our teacher fell asleep while we were reading it. And because collectively we were a bunch of shitheads, we saw that moment and took it. And while he was asleep, we went ahead multiple pages to act like we had read further. So when he woke up, suddenly we were a chapter ahead because we're just such good little readers. We didn't like this book. It's about a secret garden. There's more to it, but no. Honestly, if you want a good version of The Secret Garden, watch the episode of Community where they find the trampoline. That's the takeaway. D. Okay, so you may see in big letters here, Ray Bradbury. And what you may see from the cover is something that you would not expect from Ray Bradbury. Read this book in the same English class that we read The Hunger Games in, and this was one of our teacher's favorite books. And I felt so bad because I just could not get into it. It is kind of semi-autobiographical for Ray Bradbury, and it's about a lot of his childhood growing up in the South. They had cicadas. It was the South. It was so boring. We read so many of his short stories. Awesome short stories. We should have just read Fahrenheit 451. I felt so bad because our teacher loved this book so much. But it was one of the most boring books I have ever read. And all of my friends agreed. And I still feel bad about it just because you could see how much love our teacher had for this book. And we were just like, we should have read Fahrenheit 451. So unfortunately, I had to put this book in D tier. I feel Ray Bradbury is a good writer. This was just a boring book. I'm sorry. So that's the significantly slimmed down middle school one compared to my elementary school ranking. And now moving on, of course, to high school. High school is another one where we read a lot of short stories in class and all, but we definitely, there's a lot of books that we read too, significantly more than middle school. This is definitely the point where the books that we were reading were impacting me more because I was older. So a lot of these books now are more defining for me. They've really stuck with me over the years. The early ones are not a good example of that, but we're going to go through them. Okay. I was debating whether or not to put the Odyssey on here because it's technically an epic, but in other book rankings, I've seen people put epics like the Iliad or the Odyssey on here. So we read the Odyssey in the 9th grade to learn about heroes. Oh, Odysseus is a bad hero. I'm sorry. Also, reading the Odyssey and not reading the Iliad seems criminal. Maybe the Iliad was just too gay for a Southern So that's it. We couldn't read the Iliad in Virginia, let's be honest. But we read it from a textbook, and because the textbook was for children, aka 15-year-olds, it censored all the sex scenes. So anytime he visited like Calypso, that was cut out. So there's portions of the book cut out. It just, I don't know. I remember there was this one point when we were discussing the book and somebody just, their contribution was, I don't know, Odysseus is kind of a man whore. And that's, he was right. And that still stuck with me. Honestly, the only thing good that came out of reading the Odyssey was finally understanding the bag of wind reference from the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. So there we go. I added to the culture. I got a 70% on the test, and I deserve that. And as such, this is also getting a 70% C. It's going in C. Okay. To Kill a Mockingbird. This is a book I definitely want to revisit. It's probably not a common take at all. I don't like to call it a hot take, but I think 9th grade was too young to read this book and have a productive conversation on it. I really commend our teacher for having us read this book and also educating us more on the time period. Because this was English, but we got a really good history lesson, and he showed us a documentary on Emmett Till, and the documentary did not hold back. It did show the pictures of Emmett Till, which are disturbing, and I mean, that's an understatement. It genuinely still stuck with me. So I think from that perspective, I remember that and the impact from reading it, but what really bugged me, and I mean, I get why people are coming from this perspective, but our teacher had us do a mock trial to mimic the one in the book. And what ended up happening was everyone ganged up on the girl who falsely accused the man of sexually assaulting her. And I mean, I get the anger behind it, but there was a lot of, I still think, victim blaming going around. There was a lot of bootstrap talk of, oh, she should have just lifted herself out of that situation and left. Like, they really ignored the fact that her father was abusing her, that she was taking it to protect her siblings, and they put all of the blame on her, a 19-year-old girl who could not get out of her situation. And, I mean, did she do something wrong? Of course. But we as a class decided she was the guilty one, which I still think was gross. That really stuck with me. And so this is a book that I would love to read again outside of that context, because that kind of, it didn't ruin, but that it stuck with me enough that it dampened the experience of reading the book. So I'm gonna put it in B. Obviously I remember a lot from reading it, so it had an impact on me. It just, not a positive one. Ayn Rand, Anthem. Ayn Rand's a shit writer. Like, we had to read this, and then in the next year we read 1984. Like, Anthem's fine. Did open up a path for me wanting to read more Ayn Rand, because I was curious and I was going through a phase of what's neoliberalism and what's objectivism, and that was a mistake. I still own Atlas Shrugged, and that book could kill a small squirrel. It could kill a large squirrel. Atlas Shrugged is thick. I still own the copy of Anthem that I read for this. It was boring. I remember it's about a man going through some self-discovery that's anti-communist stuff. It's exactly what you expect. Yeah, I think it's going in D. There's just better ways to do it. It's been done before. I've read better books that accomplish what this wanted to accomplish, but are well written. Next book, Animal Farm. I liked Animal Farm. I like a good fable. And so, for what it was, kind of fun. I thought the ending, where they're like, oh, they're pigs. On the nose, but it's a fable. We didn't discuss this book a lot, and I really wish we did, but at the same time, we read it in the 9th grade, so we could have had a To Kill a Mockingbird moment, and I would not have wanted that. So I'm gonna give Animal Farm an A. That's honestly surprising me. This is my ranking and I'm surprising myself. Moving on to sophomore year, 1984. Another George Orwell book. Okay. So this is probably similar to my Hobbit opinion in that I do not trust past me, but I really hated 1984. We had to read this over the summer, and all it did was piss me off. Oh, okay. So, I've talked about it in a past video. I definitely recognize and respect George Orwell's cultural impact and political impact, but it's just wild to me that it came from this book. Again, I do not know if I trust 15-year-old me's opinion, and this is a book that I want to revisit as an adult, but I don't know if my opinion will change. It felt very male revolutionary, and that's not me making an anti-man statement whatsoever. It's just I didn't like the perspective it was written from, and that I felt like all the main character did to protest against his government was secretly journal, which a big deal, but he wasn't really publishing it. It was just like a secret little thing to him. And so in his mind, he could feel rebellious and self-important. He wrote in his journal and he had sex. That's how he rebelled. That is how he rebelled against his government. And we read about that for almost 200 pages. And it made me mad. That was my takeaway from it. I don't know if that's a valid takeaway from it. Because again, I was 15. I do not trust 15-year-old me's opinion. I still had braces. We do not know if that lead was going to my brain. So definitely want to revisit this one. But for sake of 15-year-old me, this is also going in D. Not because of how it's written, just because, again, the impact it had on me. Anthem's in D because it was written poorly. God, something about that just feels blasphemous. This is my ranking. I'm standing by it. I'm really sorry. Okay, next book. Fault in Our Stars. I thought it was really cool that we got to read this in school. I had read it in the 8th grade, so this is my second time around reading it. I can't remember when we read it in relation to the movie coming out, but I know it was still popular around this time. Yeah, this is definitely one that I want to revisit after reading Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green, just because there's moments in Everything is Tuberculosis that reminded me of The Fault in Our Stars, and I love to make those connections. And what else is there to say? I read it as a teenager. Of course, The Fault in Our Stars is going to impact me. It's a very sad book. It's the first book that I read that almost made me cry. I can't remember if I cried. I may have been a heartless bitch. What can you say? Fault in Our Stars is going in A. Good book. Lord of the Flies. Yeah, Lord of the Flies is a good book. It's impacted a lot of writers that I loved, so many writers in general, for what it was doing. The commentary I made, very impactful for its time, and equally as impactful now. Yeah, I mean, did I put it in A or S? Ooh. I think I'm gonna put it in A, because we didn't have very good discussions about it in school. And so really thinking about the impact it had on me in high school, it was negligible, just because, I don't know, we didn't ruminate on it, but still like Lord of the Flies. I'm going to put it in A. The Great Gatsby. Okay. Great Gatsby's my favorite book. So this feels like cheating. I read The Great Gatsby in middle school before we read it in our junior year of high school, and I loved it just as much. I've read The Great Gatsby like 5 times. Something about it, I love that it's written in the 1920s, but it just has whispers of the Depression in it. Maybe that sounds super pretentious. Really, my favorite thing about The Great Gatsby is the narrator. I kind of find myself in Nick's shoes, I like how he observes things. They're, of course, impacting him, but he is, in a sense, just an observer. His opinions are put in there, of course, but it's just this outside looking in perspective while also being in. I haven't read The Great Gatsby in a while. I think I'm going to revisit this one. I remember I brought the movie in for my junior year class to watch, and I had a really funny teacher. He's a great guy. I found out he's still working at my old high school, and he was trying to skip to a part in the movie, But the part he accidentally skipped to was when they were in like the parlor in the basement. I can't quite remember everything around it, but there was dancers who were dancing provocatively, and he like skipped exactly to the point where like one of the dancers just had her legs spread open, and this man screamed so loud. He was shocked. But Great Gatsby will always be S tier for me. Moving on to my senior year, Night by Elie Wiesel. I think I'm pronouncing that right, apologize. It's, again, semi-autobiographical about his experiences as a Holocaust survivor. And I mean, even now it's like, I can feel it. It was a very impactful book. I really liked Night. Very well written. It's short and to the point, and it punches you just as hard. Very thankful our teachers put this in our curriculum for us to read, because I think that was something, it was 2018 that I think we needed to read. I think definitely this goes in S tier. With that is the, I can't remember if Dawn is technically a prequel or a sequel. I know Dawn was vaguely about the French resistance during World War II. I liked it. But Night was just way more impactful. Don't remember too much about Dawn, so I'm gonna have to put it in B. Frankenstein. I thought I'd like Frankenstein much more than I did. It really shocked me. I was very excited. You hear so much lore around Mary Shelley and how Frankenstein was written in a competition. Like, there's all this lore around it. And I was not ready for the amount of words in that book. I did not realize how profound the monster would be. I don't know what I was expecting going into it. We all read different books for this section, and we each had groups of people reading it. So my group read Frankenstein, another group read Dracula, and another read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I should have read Dracula. Frankenstein bored me. I feel bad for that. Romantic literature or gothic literature in general doesn't quite hit me, I think, because sometimes the emotions are a little much. I mean, that's the point. But not for me. I really like the movie Young Frankenstein. Cool. Unfortunately, I have to put it in C again, just because my experience reading it. This is not talking about its quality as a book. It is a very impactful book. We cannot trust 18/17-year-old me to make decisions. So, moving on. Wuthering Heights. This is another book that I read in my senior year English class. So we just had an experience of shared misery. So, Wuthering Heights is the book that taught me that love and hate are not opposites, that they may as well be on the same side of a spectrum. I have never felt a more passionate emotion about a book. It was not love. I hated Wuthering Heights, but I hated it with such passion. Such a shame. I don't have my annotated copy from high school, and I spent a lot of time annotating it. Some of my annotations were dumb, like I highlighted every time they said the word dark in the book, but I combed over that thing. It was like I couldn't let the book get the better of me. I was going to analyze that thing even if it killed me, and it might as well have. I hate Wuthering Heights so much. But the thing is, when you hate something with that much passion, I can't say it's bad. I wrote the only essay, I think, in all of high school that I got a perfect score on Wuthering Heights because of how much I hated Wuthering Heights. For that sake, we're opening up a new category, which we called Ruined My Life. Wuthering Heights is going in the Ruined My Life category. Not S tier, definitely not F tier. Ruined My Life tier. All right, last two books. Okay, I had read The Kitchen God's Wife first and then read The Joy Luck Club, both by Amy Tan. I think, too, these were some of the books that impacted me the most in my adolescence, especially The Kitchen God's Wife. I've always had difficulties recommending this book to people because I think everyone should read this book, but it is very sad. I don't want to give much away about it, but it's just a great story. It impacted me so much when I first read it. I know I cried a lot reading that book, and like I still feel it. I really liked The Kitchen God's Wife, so that's definitely going in S tier. Because I liked The Kitchen God's Wife so much, I read The Joy Luck Club after it, and this one it's a lot of different stories in one book, all surrounding different things related to mother-daughter relationships within Chinese and Chinese American culture. There's definitely sad stories, but there's a lot of fun ones too. Definitely a different tone than Kitchen God's Wife. I really liked The Joy Luck Club. There's only a couple of stories in it that have stuck with me though. Some of them are like vaguely traumatic. Like there was this one, I think it was them talking about this woman who on her wedding night had sex with her husband. And he died and got stuck in her. And yeah, that one stuck with me. So let's go in A tier. All right. And that is my final high school ranking. Here's a look at all my rankings combined so you can get a thorough look at how much you need to roast me. Thank you for sticking around if you have for this long. Let me know if you have any takes about my takes below. I have some absolutely garbage takes on books, I'm aware. No, I don't. Younger me does. And she was not a real person, so we don't count those. Very thankful for the books that I got to read through school. Maybe that sounds cheesy as hell, I don't know. But I got to read a really great selection. My teachers put care into selecting those books for us and the curriculum around them, and most of them did have a deep impact on me. Except for Tuck Everlasting. I hate that book.
I hate that guy.
Anyway, cheers. Hey guys, it's Credits Katie. Thank you so much for watching. I wanted to try something different. I hope you had fun watching. It's a bit unscripted. I typically don't do unscripted because I'm a bit rambly. This is such a fun look back on my education. There's definitely a lot of surprising aspects, not only how much I remembered, but also when some of these books came out. Like I mentioned how The Giver is typically associated with the launch of YA dystopia, but for example, The Girl Who Owned a City came out in the 1970s, and that's very interesting to me. Thank you again. I hope to see you all in the next video. This is why Love is Blind has gold glasses. I'm gonna do so many takes.